but it was 2011 that we launched the first MOOCs out of Stanford, and we realized that MOOCs have a large upfront production cost, but once you've created the online content, the incremental cost of signing up one more student is nearly zero. And that's what allows us to do this previously insane thing of working with top universities to take the courses and give them away for free. On the Coursera front, I think that building a MOOC platform is hard. About 75% of Coursera's expenses today are payroll, and as often is the case in the software industry, having built the software platform once, be it our website, our mobile app, our iOS, soon Android app, once you've built the software for all these platforms, it makes sense to make that broadly available to many universities and students to amortize the cost of the platform creation. So Coursera offers at no cost, so we don't charge our university partners. We offer at no cost to our university partners the tools, support, best practices for online course creation, university various concept content production, and when we monetize, which we have been doing for about over a year now, any revenue we collect is associated with the courses shared between the university and ourselves to help both parties recoup our respective costs. Many of our university partners also use online content that they have created for their own on-campus instruction for blended learning. That's, again, a free service that we offer to the universities. Coursera started, for philosophical and mission-oriented reasons, we really wanted the content to be free. It was a stake in the ground that we kind of said, really would strongly prefer for the content to be free, and most of our university partners have been fine with that. And what we charge for is credentialing. And so one of the innovations I'm quite proud of is that we have technology to verify students' identities at scale, so that the course content is free, but we charge maybe $50 for a verified certificate, and that revenue is shared between the university partners and us. We're fairly open about our finances. When we started this program about a year ago, I think it took us like 9 months, 10 months to reach our first $1 million in cash receipts and revenue. It took us another 3 to 4 months to reach our second $1 million in revenue, and then it has been sort of growing since then. The numbers we've heard at Coursera from our partners for cost of content creation range from $10,000 to $50,000, $60,000 for a single course. The ultra extreme high end that I've heard was $300,000, but that's extremely high. And maybe $50,000 is typical for a US or Europe partner. Asian universities tend to be on the low end. I tend to hear 10, 15K from the Asian partners. I think that in the last 2 years, cost of content production has steadily crept up, where we've gone from, when I guess the first MOOCs, me and Sebastian threw, there was a certain DIY quality of it when we were sitting in a quiet room by ourselves recording video with no one else in the room. And in the last 2 years, we've seen rise in production quality, creation of support staff around the instructor by helping with instructional designers and so on. And I think these things have increased the course quality, although I think it is still an open question, what are the best tactics for the use of limited funds for course creation? For example, I think that having instructional designers to support faculty materially improves the quality of many courses. On the flip side, I think that some of the things with having super high content production quality, the very expensively shot lighting and so on, while that adds to the course, to me is still an open question how necessary that is. And so cost of content production is something our university partners must play with, and it is absolutely Coursera's intent, which we're working with, which we have some levers for, so that we hope that in the relatively near future, we'll be able to bring enough revenue back to our university partners to at least cover their content production costs as well. Right now, we are doing this successfully for some of the higher monetizing courses, but we still need to do some work to make sure that almost all, the majority of our university partners cover the content production costs for all of their courses. So there's still work there. So courses are free. But if a student wants us to do some work to verify their identity, then we charge, maybe $50 for that. So the way it works is if you want to earn a verified certificate, we ask you to show us your photo ID, and then every time you submit a piece of work, we measure your typing rhythm. It turns out your typing rhythm is fairly unique to you. It's like a fingerprint. And so using a combination of taking a picture and measuring your typing rhythm, we verify it really is you sitting at the keyboard submitting the work, and on that basis, you receive a verified certificate that comes from the university partner and from Coursera. So this Verified Certificates program is for Coursera our main source of revenue, so by far it's 99% of our revenue.
I think one of the things, irrespective of platform, that aligns all of us is what we call the democratization of education, so providing access. And that drives cost. As Andrew said, the incremental cost of getting additional people to sign up may not be that high. edX has chosen a slightly different path, and each organization chooses their own path, in that we provide our platform as an open source platform. So our platform is available for free for anyone to download, to use in whichever way they like. edX.org provides a destination portal, and we raise money, one from our partner universities, and those depend on what collaboration models we have. But we also collaborate strongly with countries, regions. So France Université Numérique is based on the Open edX platform. The Arab nation, EDRAC, is based on the edX platform, as well as Chuatengx in China. So our model is to provide that and do the business development through the open source community. Nevertheless, our biggest cost as well, just as for Coursera, is the engineering team and providing new enhancements to the platform. Quite frankly, I'm surprised at the low cost, and it depends on what you count and how you count your costs. Essentially, do you count all your faculty time? Do you count all your teaching assistant time? If you have video, is that those fixed costs that you may or may not have in your corporation or in the institution, do you count that as part of the course production cost? Then your costs are going to be substantially higher than $50,000. Yes, we've had professors who produced a course for $10,000 using their webcam and using open educational resources. That is not the norm. I can tell you that Harvard has some courses where they spent well over $1 million. China X, for example, they went to China doing filming in China. Well, someone's got to pay for that. Now that's the extreme end, but $50,000 I think is a relatively low sum where you're certainly not counting your fixed costs that you generally would incorporate into this. You know, how do you define value? I think for universities it's about learning outcomes. For corporations it might be, again, universities may want to save money as well. Certainly in North America they look for that. So that's the question, I think, how you need to assess at the outset and right in the beginning as to what are your objectives as an organization. We focus a lot on research. We think that is a tremendous value both for the educational institutions and for profits. And then we share revenue 50-50 with the organizations. So based purely on a monetary reason, you get 50% of any revenue that's generated. On the revenue side, we follow pretty much the two models that many of you have heard about. There is a business-to-business model, there's a business-to-consumer model. The business-to-consumer model, in many senses, what Andrew just described. It's very similar. What we do, we call it a verified certificate. Others call it a signature track. I think we call it Coursera. But it is you assess a learner throughout the course, and if they want a certificate at the end, they'll have to pay a fee for it. So there's always a free audit track, but learners pay for certificates. It's up to the university or the organization to decide whether they want to charge or not to charge. It's their decision. edX simply supplies the tool. So that's, broadly speaking, the business to consumer. There are variances in there. The business to business, for us, actually, is the larger revenue stream. And the licensing of our courses. That's where we make most of our revenue. That means educational institutions and corporations develop courses, and then these courses are being licensed to third parties, be it to our partners in the Arab nations, be it in China, be it to other country solutions that we cooperate with, or be it to white branded solutions where we work with corporations. So it doesn't even say edX, it's their own instance. That, to us, is a large component of our revenue, the largest component of the revenue.
And that's licensing content rather than...
That's licensing content and licensing technology and providing support in a variety of different ways. Okay. The courses differ. In some instances, it's low as 1% in a course. That's because you only get a certificate if you successfully complete a course. The highest we've seen is 35%, so anywhere between those two. And it depends on the course. As Andrew said, some courses are really difficult, or Patrick said it earlier. I've taken MOOC courses, I certainly wasn't able to pass them, and others are perhaps less difficult.
We therefore decided quite quickly we were going to build our own platform from scratch. So that is where the bulk of our investment has gone so far. It does go into people, as Andrew said. And one of the great things about MOOCs as a sort of product and an idea is that it enables you to attract really, really good people who are not only fired up by the fact that it's a fascinating digital product development opportunity, but the broader mission there. The offer to our universities is very simple. We build and market the platform. We provide them with content production tools to create their courses. We also are able to draw on our parent, the British Open University, to provide training. They also have been instrumental in the development of the FutureLearn platform, supplying the underlying pedagogical thinking to ensure we're delivering a high quality product. The universities themselves create courses, we work with them to do that. We hold their hands through that production process, and we all share the data to try to make those courses as effective as possible. FutureLearn will then try and monetize those courses, and will offer a revenue share to those partners. But there are a whole load of areas where the partners are benefiting and hoping to benefit in which FutureLearn doesn't touch. So again, as Andrew was saying, you create those course materials. They're not only of use in a MOOC environment, they're of course of use in a campus-based environment, and many of our partners are using them for those reasons. And in terms of student recruitment, this is an area where FutureLearn hopes to enable universities to attract and convert new students, but that's an area which they operate themselves.
In Europe, we have at this moment more or less 500 MOOCs on the supply side. So if you take a very conservative figure, like for instance 10,000 euros per MOOCs, which is then far from what you just said, it would have meant an investment of 5 million euros in Europe for the creation of MOOCs, and if we go to your figures, up to 25 million. So the question we have when we survey all these MOOCs is that did we really put that much money in it, especially in the context that is the context of Europe at this moment. And so I fully follow you on the hidden cost. There is a huge hidden part which is behind. And I think at some point you will need to make this come out if you really want to have a true market approach. If I were a university, I would be concerned by two things. I would be concerned on the one hand by my capacity to recoup my investment to produce the course in a way or another, but I will also be concerned by the sustainability of the platforms that deliver the course. And maybe to start with, I will certainly be more, not worried, but looking at this sustainable model that Johannes was talking about. I mean, we need sustainable platforms, because if at some moment the platforms are not sustainable enough, then the whole thing will fall down. So I think that the revenues curve will also follow this cycle. First, to build a strong delivery structure that also depends on the supply, but we need to prioritize a few things also. It's really like we are talking of a 2-3 years market, so we don't have anything behind us to lie on. What is sure is that there is an incredible amount of opportunities that are being right now explored. And if you look at this EdTech environment, where you see a growing numbers of initiatives everywhere, in the US a few years ago, now starting in Europe, I mean, we are into this movement. And lastly, one key concern for us, I think, in Europe, and that maybe in the US there is a different understanding of it. When you talk of B2B, I mean, one of the big failures at this moment of the universities, of the policymakers, of the companies, that they are not able to offer jobs to the young people. I mean, if we have more than 25% of youth unemployed, I mean, we are really in a need to question the way we deliver knowledge, the way we deliver learning. And so this is certainly one of the most striking facts that will change the way education is transmitted. And this is maybe not what you experiment in the US, this is what we live here. I mean, I live in a country where we have 57% of youth unemployed. So just come to them and talk about universities and what they can do for you.
There's this sort of assumption that we're all talking about and doing the same thing here. In my view, you know, MOOCs are just one part of a much broader online revolution hitting higher education. I think that the rules of how these things work are far from written. There's been fantastic trailblazing work on both Coursera and edX, but when we started our platform, we weren't looking at them going, okay, so they've already cracked this. We were going, hang on, we think there's other new things we can bring to this market. So, and I think, you know, I'm sure Iversity, the kind of stuff they're doing in this space, feel the same way as well. I met the FUN last week. I'm sure they feel the same way as well. We're not talking about a single commoditized thing here that you just need to create, you know, a single platform and it can all be distributed. I think this has got a long way to run. And so where I do think is that, that there must be opportunities for greater collaboration, just because I don't think that outside this little bubble and our bubble of, you know, university world, actually awareness is that high whatsoever of this weird word that we've invented. And yet, we're onto something. We have got something that is delighting large numbers of audiences when they discover it and find they've got the time to do it. So actually, I think in terms of raising awareness, communicating benefits, harmonizing maybe some of the language, I think there's a huge amount we could do around that before maybe we have to go into the complexities of making everything interoperable.